I want you to know how many people are with us today. I know that my daughters and their spouses are with us today, even though they're not physically here. I know that Silent Unity is with us today. And not because I called them, but because a fellow prayer associate called me last night out of the blue. Not really out of the blue, but he didn't know that today was the day we were doing this. He just called, 10 o'clock last night, just to say, hey, I've been thinking about you. And he is the funniest guy in the world, so he got me laughing, and that was exactly what I needed last night. But, he said, please tell the people that I am holding you in prayer. And he's going to a little church in Kansas today to speak and do the music, and he said he'd tell them about Unity of Mills River and hold us in prayer. That's amazing. The connection is amazing. I got flowers from my daughters yesterday, so I posted it on Facebook, and I got a stream of people congratulating. So everybody knows this is happening at Unity of Mills River. We are part of a huge network of people, and they all want the absolute highest and best for us, and whatever that's going to look like. And nobody knows. So we're in this adventure together. I want to thank you all for the I wills that you just gave, and for the support for this past year. I see Judith Hodges here, who started me out with a place to stay when I interviewed and when I came back last July. I'm so happy to see you, and I see other people who have come to workshops and classes and who have gone to theirs, and I see support here. I'm very excited about where this will go. And it's definitely a spiritual journey for me, but it's for you too. And it's a exciting time for us to see how we will grow together. We are beginning a new era, although it's not really a final break, because we still have the beautiful energy of Light and Chad with us. And we're really fortunate. There's other churches who have such a blunt break that it's hard to have continuity when a new minister comes in and doesn't know the culture. And this plan for you to have me come for a year or an overlap like this has been wonderful, to have that continuity happen. And I really have come to so deeply appreciate what Light and Chad had created from a little living room church, busting out of that and making a chapel on the back end, busting out of that and making this, and now seeing where will we go from here? Where will we go, and what will it look like? We're in this together. But whatever it will look like, I can be certain that it will look like community. Otherwise, why else would we come on a Sunday morning? It's much easier to stay in your PJs and have another cup of coffee. We come for community. We come for relationship. And everybody agrees that that is why we come. Otherwise, if we didn't have this, would we feel isolated? Would we wonder, is there anybody else like me out in the world? We know now there are people like me here. And we come together and we talk. And what we want is fellowship, deep community, not just superficial country club community. And so what does that look like? As I thought about this, how will I start talking as senior minister? It's not going to feel that much different for me or you. But there's something that I thought I should say, and that is, what does community look like for us? And Don Miguel Ruiz, who wrote the 4 Agreements, sharing some Toltec wisdom, has 4 ideas that I would like to share with you for the next couple weeks, 4 weeks. And I see that this will help us to get deeper and deeper into what true community is. The slide above you has the 4 agreements written. Be impeccable with your word. Don't make assumptions. Don't take anything personally. Always do your best. We'll play with those for the next few weeks. You know, it's like we're a family, but we don't want to be a dysfunctional family. And many of us know what those look like. What they often look like is communication that you can't trust. They say something and they don't follow through, right? It could be the parents when you're little or the children when you're older. Okay, Mom, I'll do this, but they don't. They don't show up. They promise something. Or they'll say something that really hurts you to the quick. Or you make assumptions that they wanted something, you could trust this, and they don't follow through. Families, they can be great, and they can be pretty tough. And so many of us who have found this new spiritual path, new to what we grew up in, often think of this as our family, our true brothers and sisters of choice. But the last thing we want to do is replicate the family patterns that we grew up with. We want to create a family that is functional. Not just that, but thriving. That gives people a safe place to be. That we can explore our ideas and say things that we've never said before, even if we might change our mind the next week. And have a safe place to say it out loud and not be told, no, that's wrong. We want a place where we can bring our heart's concerns. And when we ask for confidentiality, we get it. We want a place where we can plug into a small team, a committee, and know that we'll be honored and respected. And that our talents, even if we haven't discovered them yet, will be noticed and pulled out. Didn't we hear that last week when some of the band members said, Light just said, go for it, and gave me permission to try my hidden talent. We want a community a family that we can cry with, dance with, laugh with, at no one else's expense. So we can giggle and joke and no one is offended. Wow. Is it possible? Yeah, it is. But we have to do our spiritual work. We have to do the spiritual work of whatever we say builds up and doesn't push down. The spiritual work of not assuming, but asking, what's up with you? How are we relating? Asking, not assuming. The spiritual work of not taking other people's behaviors personally. Wow, that's a big one. And the spiritual work of always doing your best, even if you feel like it's not as good as it might be another year from now. So we'll play with those ideas in the next few weeks. So let's just look at being impeccable with your word. And let me also say, this Toltec teaching, I always want to know, am I speaking scholarly truth? What are the Toltecs? Well, there are some questions about that. So I'm not going to say the Toltecs had these agreements 3,000 years ago. That could be mythology. But there's truth in it, even if it's not historically true. Does that sound a little bit like some other book that we often base our teachings on? Right. I think scripture can come in many forms. Even in little paperback books like this. I know it. Because when it speaks to my heart And it convicts me of, oh boy, there's something for me to pay attention to. It's Scripture. So the Toltec is a man or a woman who understands wisdom of self and wisdom of life. Self, we're all one big global web, but there's the microcosm of self and there's a macrocosm of life. And it's truth applies to all of it. It's not limited just to the Mesoamerican Toltecs, but it's more of an idea of a wise man or woman. And I listened to a man whose name I had a hard time figuring out how to say, Thenmere, or something like that. I'm sorry, I could tell you if you're interested. Listen to some YouTube videos of him. He is from southern part of Africa, but he's a white man who grew up in southern Africa. And he calls himself a Toltec. And he had defined it as much broader than just Mesoamerican, okay? He said that an interesting thing about these 4 agreements, these 4 teachings, you'll hear 3 of them in here. The problem with making assumptions is that we believe they are the truth. We make an assumption. We misunderstand. We take it personally. And then we react by sending emotional poison with our word. This creates a whole big drama for nothing. That's it in a nutshell. Making assumptions is something that this community is bound to do because everybody has a picture of how it's going to look compared to how it's been. And everybody is assuming. And we take it as the truth. And then we make a drama out of nothing. So, I want to parenthetically say, these lessons are for me as well, okay? When I came here, I said to Chad, what do you usually speak about? And he said, about what I need to hear. And it's really, really true for me too. I'm learning as I do this. What I'm inspired to talk about is what my issues are, what my cutting edge learning place is. I get bored when I try to prepare a talk that's not in me. So I am learning as I say these words. I'm learning to remember it myself. Don't make assumptions. The first one, be impeccable with your word, is probably the toughest. And it takes a lifetime. So be gentle with yourself as you hear what these words might mean. This has a lot to do with the third unity principle of our thoughts create our reality. Because where do our words come from? But from our thoughts. So unless you're one of those who speaks before thinking, and a lot of us do. But even if you're really not cognitively thinking about what you're going to say next, it came from the subconscious thoughts. Oh, did I really say that? All right. So the question put upon us, if we want to create a community of love and trust, is to be impeccable with our word. Our word is our creative power. Behind the word is the thought. So the thought and words are our creative power. They affect the people who hear them. You have probably heard a story about people who don't sing as adults. What's the most common reason why they say they don't sing? Somebody told them they couldn't or didn't sing well enough. If you just lip sync the words, we'd all be better off. Somebody told them they couldn't sing. And then a music teacher, a voice teacher, coaches them as an adult, and they can sing. They can sing. They can sing on key. They can syncopate. They can do it all. Although someone's words, a teacher, a parent, a friend, told them a long time ago, don't sing. You can't sing. Same thing with public speaking. Somebody says, I can't speak in front of a group. Can't do it. Fear just paralyzes them. Most likely, there was someone who said something to introduce that thought. The Toltec story, the earlier part of the book before we get to the 4 agreements, is a whole story about how we come into this world free and wild and perfect, full of joy, exploring, learning. And who are we learning from? We're learning from adults who have learned the book of rules. And they find it's important that they teach their children that book of rules. And so children are taught, no, don't do this, or no, you can't do this, no. And they begin to get it, that there's certain limitations that they should respect. So, most of what we learn is our limitations. And most of what we learn is someone else's assumptions of the book of rules. When we speak to others, we're helping them define themselves because they're open, they listen, they want our opinions. So if you think about it that way, every time you speak to someone, they will take in what you're saying. You might like to think about what words you give them. Be impeccable. Impeccable comes from the word not sinning. And sin, in this case, is anything that you do that's against your true self. Being the light of the world is your true self. Anything you do that hides that light is a sin. So be without sin with your word is anything that will hide your light. If I say, boy, that dress looks ugly on you, I'm not looking at anybody. You'll soak that up. Even if I'm the only person who says it, and 5 other people say it looks great on you, right? You'll remember that one. Now, how does that hurting me? Being impeccable with my word, and I say to you, that outfit looks bad on you. How does that hurting me? Well, indirectly it does, because you're not going to like me too much. You're not going to respect me. You're going to see me and say, she hurt my feelings. I don't trust her anymore. She doesn't like me, or something negative toward me. So who is it really hurting? But me. That's a small example, but what if it's a big one? You know, as any of us who are teachers, who have been teachers, we know that it's really important to be impeccable with our word. Not to puff somebody up in a fake way. We need to be truthful, but we also need to be impeccable in the way that we don't ostracize that other person from us. Because if we want true community, we want a flow of trust. It's hard to do this. It's there was a cute thing that someone wrote in the next slide. In the beginning was the Word. Shortly thereafter came misinterpretation, assumptions, and misunderstandings. And then came chaos. I love it. Yeah. The word is the beginning. It's the catalyst for all the assumptions, misunderstandings that we get. So if you say something to someone, I'll be there for you, and then you withdraw that, have you been impeccable with your word? If you had to change your plans and not be able to be there anymore, go to that person and say, things have changed. Make amends. Be impeccable with your word. Is this easy? No, I don't think it is. But neither is being a master of anything. A master painter doesn't start out as a master. A master painter starts with many little still lifes, things that'll never sell, get lost in the attic or painted back over on the same canvas. Practice, practice, practice to become the master. And so we have a lifetime. We've got all kinds of time to practice this. And the more we become observant of our words, which is our thoughts first, the more we can be without sin, without hurting others about them. So to break it down, what Don Miguel Ruiz talks about is these. Just so, how can we grab a hold of being impeccable with our word? Speaking with integrity. Saying only what you mean. Avoiding using the word to speak against yourself, your own put-downs. And avoid using the word to gossip about others. And use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. The last line is the first. Use the power of your word in the direction of truth and love. So before you speak, is this in the direction of truth and love? Truth in the sense of the capital T, truth. Because remember, if you say that dress is ugly on you, that's only your truth. Somebody else's eyes might say, that's a great dress. The truth, in the spiritual sense of the word. And love. Not just kindness, but love, true love. So I just want to wrap this up with saying this is a lifelong practice. And start with remembering, before you speak, think. T-H-I-N-K. Is it true? Is it helpful? Is it inspiring? Is it necessary? Is it kind? Think. True, helpful, inspiring, necessary, kind. A practical tool, if you can remember those. True, helpful, inspiring, necessary, kind. And as we speak to each other, we remember, is it in the direction of truth and love? Now, I will make mistakes with my words. I will say something that I might wish I hadn't. I know that. I know you will too. And so we'll remember not to take it personally. That's the next step. These four together will help us to develop ourselves as a really functional family. And that's my vision. And whatever this family is going to look like, I am so glad to be a part of it. And I honor each one of you as your part in it as well. Thank you. Namaste.